What's up, everyone? Zach Patro with Faceoff Sports Network, your home of NFL draft content. And today we're going to be talking about the Senior Bowl, wrapping that up this week, looking back at all the performances, who are the top 5 performers, and we're going to award the Best Player Award at the Senior Bowl from this week, as well as we're going to highlight a few other ones, talk about a lot of the guys that looked really good and popped off this week. But first, before we get into that, head over to the website. We got the top 100 big board out right now. After the Senior Bowl week this week, we're going to be jumping that up to 200, eventually get to a top 350, so you know all the guys that are going to get drafted, all the guys that are going to be UDFAs and priority UDFAs throughout the NFL draft. So be sure to head out to the website, link down below, check that out right now. One of the best players at the Senior Bowl, and he confirmed that as a top 20, definitely a top 32 pick, a first-round pick in my eyes, was Ole Miss defensive tackle Walter Nolen. He flashed a lot of what we saw on tape, a ton of power, a great speed move, and an explosive first step. You love to see that out of an interior guy. And he's a versatile player too, can play up and down that defensive line. I love Walter Nolen. I think he's a surefire first-round pick and fits a ton of defensive schemes. Definitely answered any questions we had on film of him. I don't think there was a whole lot, but he definitely was someone that basically checked a lot of boxes at the Senior Bowl. I think he's going to test great at the combine when that rolls around. Like I said, a surefire first-round pick. I think he's a great player and someone that definitely solidified his NFL draft stock and looked great this week at the Senior Bowl. Let's go back to the trenches and talk about another guy that I really liked. I've tweeted about a lot on X. I think he's a really good player. Jacksonville State, offensive guard, center, Clay Webb, however you want to look at him, but Clay Webb could play either guard or center at the next level. His size checks a lot of boxes at either one of those positions and looked very, very good this week in one-on-ones. Looked good in team drills as well. Someone that I think saw his NFL draft stock rise. He was a Hula Bowl guy, and then he got the invite to the Senior Bowl. Definitely took that step up and again, checks a lot of boxes too. He's someone that has great power, great footwork, really good technique. I think he's going to be a top 100 guy. Small school guy, Jacksonville State. I think he looked great on film and looks really good at the Senior Bowl too, handling that top tier echelon of players, those edge rushers, those interior defensive linemen. He definitely stacked up really well, and I think made himself quite a bit of money at the Senior Bowl this week. Clay Webb, Jacksonville State, interior offensive lineman, very solid player. The next guy I want to talk about is Oregon wide receiver Tez Johnson. He looked fantastic, but before I get into that, I gotta say, we gotta stop hyping up one-on-ones. DB versus wide receiver, giving the guy a ton of time to get off the line of scrimmage and create all that separation. It's not realistic. You're not gonna see that at the NFL level. We gotta stop hyping up one-on-ones. I love seeing it, it's fun to watch, but we're not gonna boost draft stock off of one-on-ones. It's just not realistic. We shouldn't do it. Nonetheless, I digress. Let's get into why Tez Johnson is a riser from the Senior Bowl this week. Again, like his size, sub 160, you just don't see it at the NFL level. But when you watch him on film and when you watch him at the Senior Bowl, there's a ton of burst, there's great acceleration. He's definitely a very good route runner. We're getting into the elite type of route running. I really like Tez Johnson, but the question is going to be what team is going to take a risk on someone of that stature. He's not like you think of Devonta Smith, right? That's kind of what he's going to probably be compared to as we get through the process. Just that slimmer frame. But, Devonta Smith is a little bit taller, a little bit heavier. Tez Johnson is shorter, but sub 160. Like, you just don't see that at the next level, but he does a lot of stuff that you don't see at the next level. Really good route running, very solid hands, very bursty, can create a lot of separation. I thought Tez Johnson definitely kind of answered any questions we had. But the question that's going to be is his size. It is what it is. I see him as an early day 3, late day 2, but I thought he answered questions, and that's what you want to see at the Senior Bowl. So definitely someone that either kind of stayed where he was supposed to be in the rankings or maybe rose up a little bit, but definitely a very, very solid performance at the Senior Bowl. And I think someone that we're going to be talking about a lot as we get through the combine and when that clock starts for the 2025 NFL Draft. Now, let's get back to the trenches because this is where we saw a lot of players make some money this week, both on the offensive line and defensive line. But I want to talk about Carson Vincent, the Alabama A&M offensive tackle. Looked very, very good against top tier talent, showed really good footwork, great strength, hand technique was phenomenal, mirrored defenders really well, looked great in team drills, looked great in one-on-ones. This is someone that I could see jumping into the top 100 when that top 200 comes out on the big board on the website, Faceoff Sports Network. He's going to be someone that's definitely on it. I could see him rise into a top 100 player. The offensive tackles and guards, the offensive line looked really good. It was very surprising this week, but probably one of the most surprising players was Carson Vincent, Alabama A&M offensive tackle. Be sure to check him out. Head back to the tape because he's a very, very good player. Going back to the trenches, now another player that was right around that top 50, he was just outside that top 50. I think he's going to be someone that jumps inside that top 50 now, is interior defensive lineman TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. Very good player, great size, very good strength. He's kind of that, you think of edge rushers, and you think of D tackles, and you look at their size and kind of compare them. He's kind of that tweener build. I think he's going to be a very good 3-4 defensive end, someone that can play some 3-tech, some 5-tech, kind of a versatile type of player. Brings strength, brings a good speed rush, a very solid overall versatile player that has a good get off, good bull rush, good speed move. I like what I saw out of him, TJ Sanders, Carolina, a very good variety of pass rush moves, and those one-on-ones, he looked very good. Then you get into team drills, and there's a couple clips where you're like, wow, just a very good get off. TJ Sanders definitely made himself some money this week. He's likely going to be someone that jumps inside the top 50. If not, he's going to be right around that range. I think he's a very good day 2 interior defensive lineman. And overall, the D linemen, the offensive linemen, all looked very good this week. So when you have someone that stands out like a TJ Sanders, it's a very good sign, and he's going to transition well to the next level. TJ Sanders, South Carolina, big time riser for the 2025 NFL Draft. All right, those are the top 5 guys that I thought stood out this week at the Senior Bowl. Let me know your top 5 guys, but we're gonna go through a list. And again, let me know if I missed anyone, but these are the guys that stood out to me from watching practice. Marshall Edge, Mike Green. We all saw that clip of him running through Josh Connerly. That was a fantastic rep, but had a ton of good reps. Flashed a ton on film this week at the Senior Bowl. Loved what I saw out of Mike Green. He's a first round pick for me, been a first round pick for me. I like him a lot. Toledo defensive lineman Darius Alexander looked very, very good. Shamar Stewart, I loved what I saw out of the Texas A&M defensive lineman. Flashed a ton. He left early because he showed what he needed to show. I love what I saw out of him. Shamar Stewart gonna be a first round pick. Utah State wide receiver Jalen Royals. I liked this guy on film a lot, and he looked very good this week too. Willie Lampkin, the UNC interior offensive lineman. Now, this is another guy, kind of like Tez Johnson, needed to answer some questions based on his size. This is a small offensive lineman, but he doesn't have a small heart. I tell you what, this guy plays very, very hard. Willie Lampkin definitely made himself some money, looked great in one-on-ones, looked great in team drills. Despite the size, I'm drafting this guy 100% of the time. The Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo looked fantastic. Could be tight end 3. I currently have him tight end 4, but looked fantastic. Jalen Rivers, the Miami interior offensive lineman, looked fantastic. Western Kentucky's corner Upton Stout looked very, very good. Iowa State wide receivers, both of them, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, looked fantastic. The Florida State cornerback Azariah Thomas, I talked about him in the last video, has been a riser as I've got through his film. He's another guy that's jumping up that big board right now, well inside the top 50. I think he's going to be an early day 2 pick. He might even jump up higher. I liked a lot of his film, looked great at the Senior Bowl. Overall, a very good player. Jackson Slater, the Sacramento State offensive lineman, looked fantastic. Another small school guy that just he looks great. No more, nothing else to say. I thought he was a very good player this week. Kentucky defensive tackle Deion Walker, big player who moved extremely well, and you love to see that out of those bigger guys. Tyler Shugg, the Louisville quarterback, looked great. LSU tight end Mason Taylor looked very solid. RJ Harvey, Central Florida running back, looked good. And honestly, overall, the offensive line looked better than I thought they were going to look this week. I thought the defensive line was going to have their way, but the offensive line held up very, very well. I think this is a deep offensive line class. This is a deep defensive line class. I think because there's it's not a great wide receiver class. It's a very good running back class. It's not a great quarterback class, not a great wide receiver class, but a very good tight end class. I just don't think we're talking about how deep this class is because of the fantasy value, the fantasy football value, and I hate to say it, but there's really good defensive players, there's great offensive line players, very solid tight end players, and a very deep running back class. And we haven't seen a class like this in a while, and I think it's deeper than we think at other positions, right? So I just think there's a ton of potential at the DBs, at the DB position, some depth at running back and tight end and offensive line and defensive line. It's just you're finding NFL players as you get deeper into the film, in this NFL draft class, and I really like what I saw. But let's get into the best player award. And I didn't mention him in the top 5 because I wanted to talk about Gray Zabel as the best player overall through this week of practice. The North Dakota State offensive lineman. What I like most about this offensive lineman is the fact that he can play tackle. I think he projects at guard at the next level, and also took center reps. And yes, you're going to lose one-on-one reps. It's going to happen. Any offensive lineman they're going to lose reps. It's going to happen. But he won the majority of them, and he won at guard. He won at center. He won at tackle. There was just so much that whenever you put on a clip, it's him using his footwork, his hand technique, his strength, his slide, his mirror. All of it looks really, really great at the Senior Bowl. And then you go back to the film, and it all just comes full circle. He's a very good overall player, and someone that definitely stepped up in front of top tier competition and handled it well. Gray Zabel, my best player award at the Senior Bowl this week. If you haven't watched this film, make sure you go back and check it out. This is he's in the top 100. He could jump a little bit higher because I think this is someone that teams are going to really, really value highly. Gray Zabel, North Dakota State offensive lineman, best player award at the Senior Bowl this week. All right, there you have it, my top 5 guys at the Senior Bowl from the entire week of practices, as well as a bunch of other guys that stood out and looked really good who are going to rise in the 2025 NFL draft rankings. And again, if you haven't checked out the top 100, it's live on the site right now. After Senior Bowl week, we're going to have a top 200. We'll jump that up to 250. Eventually, we're going to end at a top 350 before the 2025 NFL draft starts. Be sure to check out the website, Faceoff Sports Network. Link down below. Be sure to check me out at Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, at Zach Patcher. We'll have that link below. We're going to have a lot more 2025 NFL draft videos to come, so make sure you come back, check us out, and we will see you next time.